one of the most horrifying genocides of the 20th century took place, claiming the lives of over 3 million people in 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days. We are referring to the Khmer Rouge event. This can be considered a series of massive crimes combined into one. Beyond massacres, the Khmer Rouge spread terror through cruel policies, particularly targeting women. Thousands were forced to become tools for satisfying the sick pleasures of Khmer Rouge officials, turning them into victims of unimaginable acts, from forced marriages and marital rape to being exploited as slaves. But what drove the Khmer Rouge to commit these acts? Why did a regime turn women into tools to achieve its sick political goals? This video will reveal the dark secrets, heart-wrenching stories, and chilling truths about one of the bloodiest chapters in human history. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel as we explore it right now. The events took place in Cambodia, a small country in Southeast Asia. During the 1970s, it was called the Pearl of Southeast Asia, attracting tourists and scholars from around the world. However, in 1975, everything changed when the Khmer Rouge took power. From a peaceful land, Cambodia quickly turned into a hell on earth, where people became tools in the regime's sick plans. The Khmer Rouge, officially founded in 1968 as the armed wing of the Communist Party of Kampuchea, initially operated in the shadows, waging guerrilla warfare against the government. After years of struggle, on April 17, 1975, the Khmer Rouge seized control of Phnom Penh, marking the beginning of democratic Kampuchea. With the utopian ideal of a perfect society, the Khmer Rouge abolished all modern social structures. Intellectuals, urban dwellers, and Western influences were eliminated. Currency, free markets, and traditional education were banned. The regime aimed to return Cambodia to the Angkor era, with subsistence agriculture as its core. Pol Pot, born Saloth Sar, was the mastermind behind it all, and his ideas were pivotal in shaping every extreme policy. Additionally, figures like Nguyen Che, Keo Samphan, and the Butcher Tamok were Pol Pot's right-hand men, complicit in every atrocity. Nguyen Che, known as Brother Number 2, was responsible for planning the purges. Keo Samphan, the head of state of democratic Kampuchea, served as the regime's political face, legitimizing its inhumane actions. Tamok, nicknamed the Butcher Tamok, carried out the bloodiest purges. With an iron fist, he commanded Khmer Rouge forces to execute large-scale massacres, spreading terror across Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge leaders were not just policymakers, but symbols of brutality. They believed that only fear and death could ensure absolute power, and this belief led to some of the bloodiest days in Cambodia's history. On June 2, 2014, the Cambodia Defenders Project released a series of reports based on over 100 interviews with survivors. These witnesses, from ethnic groups like Khmer Krom, Mainframe, and Traveling, painted a horrifying picture of Khmer Rouge atrocities that had been hidden in darkness for years. Beyond genocide, the Khmer Rouge used sexual violence as a tool to control and oppress ethnic minorities, turning innocent women into victims of sick pleasures. The killing fields, where thousands of skulls have been unearthed, stand as painful evidence of their brutality. Yet less known are the horrifying sexual crimes, such as forced marriages, marital rape, and coerced pregnancies, which were overlooked in international trials. One witness described how the Khmer Rouge forced unknown couples to marry in mass weddings. After the ceremonies, Khmer Rouge cadres stood guard outside huts at night, forcing the couples to have intercourse to produce children for Angka, the supreme political organization. Additionally, Khmer Krom women shared horrifying stories of being humiliated before having their breasts cut off. In another gruesome case, a victim was mutilated, with her limbs cut off after being raped. These punishments not only inflicted suffering, but also served to intimidate others in the community. Most victims came from ethnic minorities, with women often being the first targets. They were taken away without explanation. Some returned with severe injuries, but most never came back. Many witnesses reported seeing hundreds of women killed within 3 days after enduring weeks of humiliation and abuse. Almost all cases involved no resistance. If anyone attempted to oppose, she would be tortured and raped before being executed. Her body would then be mutilated to serve as a warning to others. Reports revealed that the Khmer Rouge not only enforced forced marriages, but also imposed strange regulations for comprehensive control. A Cham woman recounted being forced to marry a Khmer man and prohibited from marrying someone of her ethnicity. Khmer Rouge officials declared that under democratic Kampuchea, everyone had to be Khmer, with no exceptions. On the night of forced marriage, women were pushed into huts with complete strangers. If they refused, a Khmer Rouge official would draw a gun to threaten and humiliate them. Couples were forced to conceive children for Amka, the supreme organization of the Khmer Rouge. A study on forced marriage policies during the Khmer Rouge era described couples as being treated like animals, forced to mate, like dogs or cats, to meet the goal of increasing the population from 8 million to 20 million in one generation. Many women became pregnant while in a state of exhaustion from starvation and forced labor, leading to various illnesses like malaria and dengue fever. Stillbirths in mothers' wombs were also common. Additionally, the Khmer Rouge conducted medical experiments on pregnant women, aiming to create a generation of loyal warriors. These experiments included forcing women to ingest chemicals and performing live surgeries, resulting in the deaths of both mother and child. More horrifyingly, there were reports of Khmer Rouge soldiers slitting women's throats immediately after childbirth. This was seen as a mix of superstition and brutal policy aimed at separating children from their parents right from birth. However, the Khmer Rouge's expansion did not last long. After nearly 4 years of bloody rule, the Khmer Rouge began facing pressure from all sides. The regime's aggressive policies, especially attacks on Vietnam's southwestern border, escalated tensions. One of the most horrific crimes of the Khmer Rouge was the Ba Chuk massacre in An Giang, where thousands of Vietnamese civilians were brutally murdered within a few days. These atrocities not only outraged the international community, but also prompted Vietnam to take action. In early 1978, Vietnam launched a large-scale military campaign to repel the Khmer Rouge and protect its national borders. Vietnam's counterattack went beyond defending its territory. On January 7, 1979, the Vietnamese army, in coordination with the Cambodian National Salvation Front, led by Heng Samrin, entered Phnom Penh, ending Khmer Rouge domination. At dawn, artillery and machine gun fire echoed across the fields surrounding the capital. The Vietnamese army, with high discipline and precise tactics, quickly overcame the Khmer Rouge's weak defenses. At the gates of Phnom Penh, Khmer Rouge forces desperately tried to resist. However, their military's disarray and low morale led to a swift defeat. Many Khmer Rouge soldiers abandoned their weapons and fled into the jungles. Inside the city, chaos reigned. Civilians, who had lived in the Khmer Rouge's hell for nearly 4 years, emerged from hiding to witness horrifying scenes. Streets littered with bodies, abandoned buildings, and the stench of death pervading the air. Khmer Rouge commanders, including Pol Pot and Nguyen Che, fled the night before, leaving behind a desolate Phnom Penh. Documents, strategic maps, and even personnel records were burned in an effort to erase evidence. When the Vietnamese army entered Phnom Penh's center, they encountered an unimaginable sight: the Tuol Sleng prison, S21, where thousands had been imprisoned, tortured, and killed. Evidence of the Khmer Rouge's brutal crimes appeared in every room: torture devices, prisoner records, and blood-stained walls. Despite their defeat, the Khmer Rouge did not completely disband. In the following years, they continued guerrilla warfare from hidden bases, plunging Cambodia into prolonged instability. In the dense jungles, Pol Pot and his associates tried to regroup, but their military and political strength gradually weakened. By the mid-1990s, the Khmer Rouge regime officially collapsed, ending a dark chapter in history. However, the Khmer Rouge's crimes never disappeared. The painful memories of millions of deaths, shattered families, and humanitarian disasters caused by the regime continue to haunt Cambodia and the world. On June 6, 2003, the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia, ECCC, was officially established under an agreement between the Cambodian government and the United Nations. The Khmer Rouge Tribunal has partially given victims a voice. However, many heinous crimes remain in the shadows without appropriate punishment. Although the Khmer Rouge's crimes have been recognized globally, some still justify their actions as a means to prevent an imaginary invasion. This is a denial of history and an insult to the millions of Cambodians and Vietnamese who bled under the worst genocidal regime of the late 20th century. Under Pol Pot's leadership, the Khmer Rouge ruled Cambodia from April 1975 to January 1979. In just 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, this regime killed over 3 million Cambodians, nearly half of the population at the time. This is why the preparation for the tribunal took significant time to consolidate documents and related evidence. In 2006, legal procedures began. Investigations into one of the 20th century's worst humanitarian tragedies gradually took shape. Behind closed courtroom doors, pressure from victims and the international community heightened tensions like never before. In July 2007, Cambodian history turned a new chapter. Kaing Guek Av, also known as Dutch, the head of the infamous Tuol Sleng prison, S21, was arrested. Over 14,000 people were tortured and executed there during the Khmer Rouge regime. Dutch was the first figure brought to light. At this point, not only Cambodians but the world anxiously followed. He was the key to unlocking the buried secrets of the Khmer Rouge. Around the same time, other senior Khmer Rouge leaders were also arrested. Nguyen Che, the regime's chief ideologue, Keo Samphan, the president of Democratic Kampuchea, Ieng Sari, deputy prime minister and minister of foreign affairs, and Ieng Thirith, minister of social affairs, wife of Ieng Sari. In the early hearings, Dutch admitted his role at Tuol Sleng prison. He confessed to signing execution orders for thousands, including women and children. However, Dutch's testimonies also revealed the Khmer Rouge's closed system, where all decisions stemmed from a brutal organization. This placed significant pressure on the senior leaders under custody. Nguyen Che, known as Brother Number 2, refused to take responsibility. He insisted that all actions were to protect the nation from invasion. However, evidence from witnesses and historical documents contradicted his claims. Keo Samphan, the regime's political face, tried to justify himself as merely a symbol and claimed he had no direct involvement in the genocidal policies. Yet, the painful memories of victims exposed his role in the brutal purges. Ieng Sari and his wife, Ieng Thirith, also could not escape the wheels of justice. They were accused of directing and implementing policies of oppression, forced labor, and the destruction of Cambodia's traditional culture. On February 17, 2009, the first trial opened, marking the beginning of the historical investigation into the Khmer Rouge's crimes. Defendant Kaing Guek Dutch, the former head of Tuol Sleng prison, S21, where over 14,000 people were tortured and executed, faced justice. In court, Dutch not only confessed to his crimes but also detailed how he ordered torture and executions. His testimonies cut deeply into the survivors' wounds. Many witnesses wept as they recalled the screams for help from the hell known as Tuol Sleng. The trial ended in 2010, with Dutch sentenced to 35 years in prison. However, due to time already served, the sentence was reduced to 19 years. Although justice seemed to have been served, for many, the sentence was insufficient to compensate for the pain and loss. In 2014, the Khmer Rouge Tribunal continued with the trials of two senior leaders, Nguyen Che and Keo Samphan. These figures were not only Pol Pot's right-hand men, but also architects of the genocidal policies. In court, haunting stories of purges, forced marriages, and forced labor were recounted. Nuon Che, unrepentant, declared his actions were for revolutionary ideals. Khieu Samphan, the regime's political face, tried to justify himself by blaming others. However, evidence and witness testimonies exposed the horrifying truth. Both Nuon Che and Khieu Samphan were sentenced to life imprisonment. With this verdict, many believed that justice had finally been partially served for the millions of victims. The final trial of the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia, ECCC, concluded on September 22, 2022. Khieu Samphan, the last surviving senior figure, maintained his life sentence. A bloody and tear-filled chapter officially closed. However, many Khmer Rouge leaders died before being brought to justice. Pol Pot, the chief architect, died in 1998, taking the darkest secrets of the Khmer Rouge regime with him. The untried deaths of leaders like Ieng Sari, Ieng Therith, and Tamok left a bitter taste for the Cambodian people. They never faced the consequences of their actions, leaving many victims feeling justice was still incomplete. The struggle to uncover the truth and seek justice for the Khmer Rouge's victims is not just Cambodia's fight, but also a reminder to humanity of the importance of preventing genocide. This video concludes here. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on more fascinating stories. Daniel LaPlante, a 15-year-old boy who broke into people's homes not only to steal but also to torment their families. He hid in secret spaces behind built-in wardrobes, pretending to be a ghost to monitor and scare the entire family. This behavior landed him in a juvenile detention center. However, shortly after his release, Daniel resumed his criminal activities. He brutally murdered the Gustafson family, including the pregnant young mother Priscilla, in one of the most horrifying cases in Massachusetts history. It sounds like a movie, but this is a completely true story that took place in the United States in 1986, filled with gripping and extraordinary details. Hit like and subscribe to the channel to explore this chilling tale with us now. Our protagonist, Daniel LaPlante, was born in 1970 in Townsend, Massachusetts. From a young age, he endured an incredibly difficult life. Daniel's father was the primary cause of his traumatic childhood, frequently subjecting him to physical and emotional abuse, leaving lasting scars. These experiences made it difficult for Daniel to integrate into society. He was often shunned by peers and neighbors, not only for his shabby appearance, but also for his bizarre and antisocial behavior. At North Middlesex High School, Daniel was labeled as the weird kid by his classmates. Struggling with dyslexia and constantly ridiculed, Daniel spent most of his time alone, fostering increasingly dark thoughts. Due to these psychological manifestations, Daniel LaPlante was sent to a psychiatric facility for evaluation. There, he was diagnosed with ADHD. Instead of receiving proper treatment, his condition became a psychological burden, worsening his already unstable mental state. At the same time, he faced another tragedy. The specialist entrusted with his care exploited and abused him during therapy sessions. This horrifying experience left a deep imprint on Daniel, turning him into someone who lost trust in everyone and spiraled further into isolation and antisocial behaviors. At the age of 15, Daniel began a series of thefts. Initially, he targeted valuable items like money and electronics. Over time, his motives became more bizarre. He no longer just stole items, but deliberately aimed to unsettle homeowners. Simple acts like rearranging household items or leaving objects such as dolls or reversed clocks were meant to instill an inexplicable fear in his victims. In 1986, at the age of 16, Daniel randomly chose a phone number from a public directory. Since the internet was not widespread, many private numbers were publicly listed in directories or neighborhood databases. Daniel found the number of the Bowen family, consisting of 3 members. Mr. Frank, the eldest daughter Tina, 15, and the youngest daughter Karen, 9. Under the guise of a charming young man, Daniel called Tina, introducing himself as a high-achieving, handsome athlete. Through lengthy phone conversations, Daniel gained Tina's trust. He seemed attentive and empathetic, crafting a perfect image in her eyes. Naive and curious, Tina agreed to meet him for a date. When Daniel appeared at Tina's doorstep, her expectations crumbled. Instead of the idealized young man he described, he was a scrawny, disheveled teenager. Despite this, Tina remained polite and gave Daniel a chance. During the brief date, Tina confided in Daniel about her mother's recent passing from cancer. She shared her grief, mentioning how she and her sister were trying to adapt to life with just their father. However, instead of showing typical empathy, Daniel displayed an unusual obsession with Tina's mother's death. He incessantly asked Tina about the details of her mother's death, how she looked in her final moments, how Tina felt witnessing her passing, and whether Tina ever felt her mother's presence around her. These strange questions made Tina uncomfortable, prompting her to end the date early. She resolved never to see Daniel again. But Daniel was different. He became fixated on Tina's story about her mother and her family, formulating a bizarre plan to infiltrate their lives further. After days of remote surveillance, Daniel took advantage of the Bowen family's negligence and sneaked into their home. He crawled 1.2 meters into a narrow gap between the inner and outer walls, landing in a triangular void formed by 3 walls, one of which led directly to the built-in wardrobe in Tina's bedroom. Just like in a movie, for several months, Daniel chose to live like a parasite. He ate food from the fridge, drank milk, and even used the restroom as if it were his own house. All his actions were carried out silently while the Bowen family was asleep. One evening in January 1987, while Tina and Karen were sitting in the living room, strange knocking sounds echoed through the house. These sounds weren't new to them as they had occurred before, but tonight they were unusually loud. The noises didn't just come from the walls but also from the basement below the house. Karen grabbed a small knife for protection, while Tina took a flashlight. The 2 girls cautiously descended the basement stairs. When the flashlight illuminated the wall, they were horrified to see a large message written in red liquid. "I am in your room. Come find me." Overwhelmed with fear, Tina and Karen screamed and ran out of the house. They rushed to a neighbor's house seeking help. The neighbor immediately let them in, locked the door, and called Frank to inform him about what had happened. When Frank returned home, he listened to his daughter's story. However, instead of believing them, he thought it was a prank they had orchestrated to seek attention. He assumed the messages were their doing and decided to take them to a psychologist for evaluation. Under their father's pressure, Tina and Karen reluctantly visited a psychologist. During the session, they tried to explain that the incidents weren't their doing, but the psychologist concluded that the girls were experiencing emotional distress due to their mother's death. In the following days, everything seemed to settle down. Frank felt relieved, thinking the therapy sessions had helped his daughters stabilize their emotions. However, Tina and Karen lived in constant fear, worried that something would return. A few weeks after the basement incident, strange phenomena occurred again. Late at night, Tina and Karen heard noises coming from the wall in Tina's bedroom. The sounds were persistent, as if someone was knocking to deliver a message. When the 2 girls entered the room, a horrifying sight awaited them. On the wall was a large message in red: "I am back. Find me if you can." This time the message was even more terrifying, a direct challenge. Terrified, Tina and Karen immediately ran to the neighbor's house seeking help. They called Frank from there, begging him to come home immediately. Reluctantly, he agreed, but still believed his daughters were fabricating the events. When Frank entered the house in the dim light, he saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. It wasn't just an ordinary silhouette, but a man wearing a dress, a blonde wig, and using his late wife's makeup. The figure was holding something resembling a broom, standing motionless and staring directly at him. Frank froze at the bizarre sight. After a few moments of composure, he immediately ran out, locked the door, and called the police. Within 10 minutes, the police arrived and began searching the house. However, aside from the eerie messages written in ketchup, the intruder was nowhere to be found. The intruder's disappearance was as if he had vanished into thin air. The police began to suspect Frank might have been overwhelmed and mistaken, but they continued their search. While rechecking Tina's bedroom, an officer accidentally discovered a built-in wardrobe with a small gap. Forcing the hidden door open, they uncovered a narrow, dark space inside. Inside that narrow space, Daniel LaPlante was curled up like a cornered animal. He stared back at the officers, making no attempt to escape. The police cautiously apprehended him on the spot. As Daniel was escorted out, Frank and his daughters were visibly horrified. They had never imagined that Daniel had been living within the walls of their house all this time. A thorough search of Daniel's hideout revealed a network of secret passages he had dug and expanded, connecting the rooms of the house. Small holes were meticulously drilled in various places, allowing Daniel to observe the family from any angle. These observation holes were especially concentrated in Tina and Karen's rooms. Daniel confessed that he spent hours watching the girls, even detailing their daily routines to plan his deranged, psychological pranks. Daniel used the clothes and makeup of their late mother to create the image of a ghost. He admitted that his initial purpose was to scare the girls, but his actions became increasingly obsessive, culminating in the plan to fully impersonate their mother. On the night the family fled the house, Daniel was preparing for his final act: to appear before them as their deceased mother. Frank's quick thinking and luck saved the family from a potentially deadly encounter that night. For his actions, Daniel was convicted and sent to a juvenile detention center in October 1987. However, upon his release in November of the same year, he returned to his criminal path with increasingly reckless and violent behavior. On December 1, 1987, exactly 1 month after his release, Daniel broke into the Gustafson family home, less than a kilometer from where he lived. The Gustafson family consisted of Priscilla Gustafson, 33 years old and pregnant, along with her 2 young children, Abigail, 8, and William, 5. Priscilla and her children were at home while her husband, Andrew, was at work. Armed with a stolen gun, Daniel broke into the house and began his horrific acts. When Andrew returned late in the afternoon, he found the house eerily quiet. Entering, he was horrified to discover Priscilla face down on the bed, her pillow soaked in blood, lifeless. In the bathrooms on the first and second floors, Abigail and William were found having met the same fate, drowned in the bathtubs. Andrew immediately called the police after discovering the bodies of his wife and children. The crime scene left investigators stunned by its unprecedented brutality. In the master bedroom, Priscilla was found tied to the bed, her body bloodied with fatal gunshot wounds. Signs of a desperate struggle were evident before she was killed. Abigail and William were both found dead in bathtubs. Their cause of death was determined to be drowning. Strangely, the children were killed in separate bathrooms on the first and second floors. Investigators concluded the perpetrator must have planned this thoroughly. Blood-stained fingerprints were found on several surfaces. Muddy shoe prints led from the living room to the bedrooms, and a sock near the upstairs bathtub contained a strand of Abigail's hair. The forensic evidence was immediately analyzed. The fingerprints matched Daniel LaPlante's records from his time in juvenile detention. Additionally, the shoe prints matched a pair of shoes Daniel had been known to wear, further solidifying his connection to the crime. However, there was no prior connection between him and the victims, suggesting the family may have been chosen at random. A large-scale manhunt was launched across the region. Daniel LaPlante was declared an extremely dangerous criminal. He was armed and deemed likely to violently resist if cornered. Following the Gustafson family massacre, Daniel fled Townsend. He hid in nearby small towns, continuing to live as a fugitive. During one escape attempt, Daniel broke into the home of a woman named Lynn McGovern. When discovered, he held her hostage and forced her into a car to flee. Lynn, displaying courage and quick thinking, seized an opportunity to escape from the car while Daniel was distracted. She called for help, and the police were alerted immediately. Daniel's reckless behavior not only made him the focus of the manhunt, but also spread fear throughout the community. Local newspapers plastered his image on their front pages. In December 1987, a citizen recognized Daniel from a newspaper photo and reported him to the police after spotting him hiding near a garbage dump. After 48 hours of intense pursuit, police found Daniel hiding in a trash can in the town of Ayer. In June 1988, Daniel LaPlante stood trial. Throughout the proceedings, he showed no remorse and refused to answer questions about his motives for the murders. Daniel was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, putting an end to his reign of terror. Between 1988 and 2014, Daniel repeatedly attempted to sue the legal system, claiming his rights were being violated. On one occasion, he argued that the prison system had infringed on his religious rights as a follower of Satanism. Daniel requested materials and tools to perform satanic worship rituals, but his requests were denied by the prison. In 2017, Daniel appealed for a reduced sentence, claiming he had experienced profound remorse. In court, he stated, "I am truly sorry for the harm I have caused. I seek redemption and the chance to regain my humanity." However, psychological experts present at the hearing confirmed that Daniel showed no genuine empathy. They believed his apology was a manipulative ploy to gain freedom. The court rejected Daniel's appeal. The final ruling ensured he would spend the rest of his life in prison without any possibility of parole. The public overwhelmingly supported the decision. Many believed Daniel LaPlante was beyond rehabilitation, and his permanent incarceration was the only way to guarantee public safety. Daniel's case became a symbol of the devastating consequences of abuse and the horrors it can unleash. His tragic past did not excuse the heinous acts he committed. The victims' families continued to live with the pain of their loss. They held annual memorials to honor those they had lost while raising awareness about the dangers posed by individuals with severe psychological disorders. This concludes the video. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to catch more intriguing stories. A wild party with 11 men ended with the mysterious death of Christine, a beautiful flight attendant. Bruises, scratches, and traces of semen on her body raised suspicions that she might have been assaulted to death. Police quickly identified the 11 men at the party as the main suspects. Conflicting statements, evidence discrepancies, and the victims' families' outrage pushed the case into the media spotlight. Then, a surprising twist emerged. The police declared all suspects innocent. Was this explanation convincing, or just a cover-up for the truth? The case became a symbol of the Philippine justice system's failures and the injustices victims endure. This is entirely a true story. Join us as we uncover dark secrets and gripping twists you've never heard before. Don't forget to like and subscribe to explore this story with us. The central figure of this story is Christine DeSera. Born on April 13, 1997, in General Santos, she was the second of 4 siblings. From a young age, Christine stood out with her natural beauty. Neighbors often praised her sweet and elegant appearance. Christine wasn't just beautiful. She was also an excellent student, always at the top of her class, becoming the ideal role model in the eyes of parents. In 2017, she participated in the Miss Universe Philippines pageant and won the title of first runner-up. However, she didn't achieve significant fame in the entertainment industry, but she never gave up. Christine decided to pursue another dream, becoming a flight attendant. With confidence and talent, she quickly passed the rigorous selection process and officially joined the Philippine Airlines crew in 2019. This success marked a significant turning point in Christine's life. To facilitate her work, Christine de Serra moved to Manila, the bustling and vibrant capital of the Philippines. It was here she began building her independent life, shining with confidence as a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines. On December 28, 2020, Christine posted a photo with the caption, "The last flight of the year." Little did anyone know that caption inadvertently foretold her tragic fate. That flight wasn't just the last of the year. It was the last of her life. On December 31, 2020, New Year's Eve, a time when everyone eagerly awaited the new year, Christine decided to make the night unforgettable. She planned to invite a few close friends to celebrate together. Coincidentally, 3 of her close friends, Romeo Gallio, Goodman Jonah, and another companion, suggested hosting a party at a special venue. After some discussion, they chose the 4-star City Garden Hotel in Makati, a location renowned for its luxury and excellent service. Christine and her 3 friends checked into room 2209 at the hotel. Initially, it was just a small gathering of 4 people. However, things quickly changed when her 3 friends unexpectedly invited 8 more people. These guests were all men and strangers to Christine. The 8 new guests checked into room 2207, right next to Christine's group. Interestingly, aside from Christine, the remaining 11 men all knew each other. A lone woman at a party with 11 men, one could only imagine how wild their New Year's Eve celebration turned out to be. The group of 12 partied continuously to loud music until 6 a.m. before eventually falling asleep. At 10 a.m. the next morning, Gallio was the first to wake up. He groggily walked into the bathroom. The sight that greeted him made him freeze. Christine lay in the bathtub, motionless, as if in a deep sleep. Thinking she had drunk too much and fallen asleep, Gallio didn't wake her but gently pulled a hotel blanket over her and returned to bed, unaware that this action would haunt him later. Near noon, Gallio woke again, sensing something was wrong. He returned to the bathroom to check on Christine. This time, from a distance, he noticed her face was pale, with an unusual bluish hue to her skin. A vague fear gripped him. Trembling, Gallio moved closer to check her breathing. He froze in horror upon realizing Christine was dead. Overwhelmed and panicked, Gallio immediately called his friends Goodman and Sina for help. The 3 tried performing CPR on Christine, but to no avail. With no other options, they sought assistance from hotel staff to transport her to Makati Hospital. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Christine had passed away before arrival. The initial conclusion was that she died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Additionally, numerous signs of possible assault raised suspicion of foul play, prompting the doctors to report the case to Makati Police. On January 2, 2021, the autopsy results were released, confirming the hospital's findings. The cause of death was a ruptured aortic aneurysm. However, the forensic report revealed more unusual signs on her body. Forensic doctors noted bruises and scars on Christine's right arm, knees, and ankles. Notably, scratches and tears were observed on her inner thighs, intensifying suspicions of assault before her death. The scratches in Christine's intimate area were the most critical detail, leading to speculation that she might have endured a severe attack. Physical and mental pressure could have contributed to the ruptured aortic aneurysm, leading to Christine's painful and sudden death. The Makati City Police Chief quickly held a press conference after receiving the forensic results. He declared, "This is a serious murder case. The 11 men present with the flight attendant are the prime suspects." He also revealed that semen was found in Christine's body, considered key evidence supporting the theory that she might have been assaulted before her death. 3 suspects were arrested, while the remaining 8 were being aggressively hunted. He gave the remaining suspects a 72-hour deadline to surrender, warning of severe consequences if they continued to evade capture. This information spread nationwide, sparking outrage and heated discussions. A beautiful flight attendant, 11 men, a wild night, and a mysterious death. These elements turned the case into a media frenzy. Social media platforms exploded with polarized opinions. Many harshly criticized the group of 11 men, demanding strict justice and punishment. Others blamed Christine's reckless lifestyle, arguing she put herself at risk. While the public debated, an unexpected development occurred. The 3 arrested suspects consistently claimed they were innocent and had nothing to do with Christine's death. The 3 suspects stated they were Christine's closest friends. According to them, no one in their group had any intention of harming her. They even revealed a surprising detail. All 3 were gay. "We only care about men, we're not interested in women," they claimed, also asserting that the other 8 men were part of the LGBTQ+ community. Their statements raised new questions. If all 11 men were uninterested in women, why did Christine show signs of assault? Where did the semen found in her body come from? Could a 12th individual have entered the scene during that fateful New Year's Eve? The families of the 11 suspects didn't remain silent. They began speaking out, accusing the police of handling the case unprofessionally. They concluded our children were guilty without proper investigation. "This is a grave injustice," one parent exclaimed. The mounting pressure forced the investigative team to re-examine the case thoroughly. This time, flaws in the investigation began to surface, shocking not only the suspects' families but also the public. The first oversight was finding semen in Christine's body, but failing to conduct DNA comparisons with the suspects before announcing it as incriminating evidence. Such a hasty move raised doubts about the accuracy of the conclusion. Although the forensic report detailed the victims' injuries, it did not clarify how they were inflicted. This left major questions about the true cause of Christine's death. Reviewing the hotel's surveillance footage revealed a narrative completely different from the initial theory. At 11:38 p.m. on December 31st, Christine was seen on camera holding a glass of wine and chasing 2 men from room 2207 to room 2209. She appeared cheerful and relaxed. The footage showed no signs of coercion or struggle. She seemed fully engaged in the festivities, contradicting earlier assumptions of an assault. During this time, Christine called her mother, joyfully sharing that she was having a wonderful New Year's Eve at the hotel, with no indication of any distress. At 2:50 a.m., cameras captured Christine holding hands with a man as they left room 2209. She smiled naturally, exuding happiness, while the man accompanying her looked slightly reluctant. 2 minutes later, the man led Christine back to room 2209. He repeatedly rang the doorbell and knocked on the door, nervously glancing around as if seeking an escape from an awkward situation. Christine suddenly leaned in and kissed the man. Her actions left him visibly embarrassed, awkwardly pushing her away gently. His body language suggested discomfort and a desire to end the situation quickly. This man was identified as Goodman, one of Christine's closest friends. At 4:13 a.m., cameras recorded Christine heavily intoxicated, unsteady on her feet. An unidentified man had to carry her back to room 2209. At 6:23 a.m., Christine appeared again on camera, this time exhausted and being carried by another individual back to room 2209. Apart from the surveillance footage, Christine's friends had taken a photo of her sitting in front of a toilet, visibly drunk. After the release of these videos and images, public sentiment shifted. Many concluded that Christine's friends had genuinely cared for her, ensuring her safety and helping her back to her room. Based on the new evidence, police were forced to release Christine's 3 close friends. They declared that the samples taken from her body might have been contaminated during the embalming process before the autopsy. A shocking announcement followed. Christine died of natural causes unrelated to the 11 men at the party. This statement stunned the public and reignited heated debates. Police, who had once issued warrants accusing the suspects of murder, now cleared them within hours, deeming them unrelated to the case. The rapid reversal left many questioning the investigation's integrity. Public outrage grew, criticizing the police's inefficiency and transparency. Questions about corruption and mishandling of the case echoed throughout the nation. Speculation arose that the suspects' families had leveraged their wealth and influence to pressure law enforcement. The public demanded a thorough and transparent reinvestigation, urging the removal of any corrupt elements. Christine's family insisted that she had been drugged and abused before her death. Her mother declared she was willing to have her daughter's body exhumed for another autopsy if necessary. The grieving mother told the press, "I cannot accept any hasty conclusions. If necessary, I will do whatever it takes to ensure justice is served. My daughter did not deserve such an unjust death." Her statement immediately sparked a wave of strong public support. Christine's family officially filed a lawsuit against the police and related agencies, accusing them of negligence and carelessness in the investigation. Additionally, Christine's mother appealed directly to the President of the Philippines, urging him to seek justice for her daughter. On January 27, 2021, after weeks of investigation, the Philippine National Bureau of Investigation held a press conference to release the final forensic report. The report revealed that Christine's heart weighed 500 grams, far exceeding the average weight of 300 grams for a normal person. Experts concluded that this condition might have resulted from a sudden spike in blood pressure, leading to the ruptured aortic aneurysm, the direct cause of death. Internal hemorrhaging was also detected in her kidneys, supporting the hypothesis that Christine's death was not caused by external forces, but was a result of extreme physical strain from alcohol consumption and prolonged excitement. Investigators found a white powder in the hotel room, initially suspected to be illegal drugs. However, tests confirmed it was only table salt, with no illicit substances linked to the case. Separate tests conducted on the 11 suspects revealed no traces of illegal substances in their bodies. However, a small amount of medication for high blood pressure was found in Christine's system, providing another clue about her health condition. The bruises and abrasions on Christine's body remained controversial. While there was no direct evidence linking them to foul play, investigators suggested they could have resulted from drunken falls or the process of transporting her to the hospital in a wheelchair. Christine's close friends insisted they did everything possible to save her. They recounted performing CPR when they found her unresponsive before seeking hotel staff's assistance to get her to the hospital. On April 23, 2021, the police released a 19-page investigation report concluding that there was insufficient evidence to classify the case as a homicide. The report emphasized that none of the suspects had any motive for a crime, and their actions were solely aimed at helping Christine. Christine's death was ruled to have been caused by natural factors, including alcohol consumption, excitement, and underlying health conditions. After months of debate, the police officially dismissed all charges against the 11 suspects due to a lack of evidence. They asserted that there was no criminal activity linked to the group and declared the case closed. Nevertheless, public outrage persisted. Christine's family continued to accuse the 11 men of committing a crime and lying. They claimed the evidence was tampered with and demanded an independent investigation. In response, 5 of the 11 men filed counter-lawsuits against Christine's family, accusing them of defamation and slander on social media, escalating the legal battle for months. On February 7, 2022, over a year after Christine's death, the police once again stated that all accusations related to her death were unfounded. They also issued an official statement declaring the case closed and urged the public to stop spreading rumors. Additionally, the police announced that City Garden Hotel was fined and suspended from operating for 6 months for violating pandemic protocols. At the time of the incident, government regulations strictly limited 2 people per room. The hotel violated these rules by allowing the group of 12 to host an unauthorized party. However, the case could not simply end there. Christine's family refused to accept the closure and continued to demand a review of the case by the Philippine government. Meanwhile, some Filipinos believed the case had been manipulated by financial influence. Reports of the suspects' affluent backgrounds fueled suspicions that they used money to pressure law enforcement and investigative agencies. Facing pressure from all sides, the Philippine government pledged to reform its investigation system to ensure similar incidents would not occur in the future. However, this promise did little to quell public skepticism and anger. The Christine de Serra case became a symbol of the justice system's weaknesses and the injustices victims endure. It also highlighted issues of discrimination and inequality in society, prompting calls for comprehensive reform. This concludes today's story. Thank you for watching this thrilling account. If you found it intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss our next captivating stories.